Thank you very much, Samir. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, pleasure and honor being here. And I know you've had a day full, but what impressed me the most was the effort which ORF has put in choosing the name. The name itself of the conclave is Chaturanga. A whole lot of people in the audience in the world are familiar with something called chess, but they probably have forgotten the word Chaturang. It all started as Chaturang, became Shatranj, and from Shatranj it became chess. The transition is what defines India as well. So many things came out of India, kept changing shapes and signs, but continued nevertheless. And it also defines India as a country, as a civilization, which has shown a lot of resilience, not just in recent past in economic terms, but in cultural terms as well. We change, we modulate, but we still refuse to change completely. And that resilience showcases that there's a benefit in being who we are and living the way we do. Sustainability probably has been made fashionable in recent past, but sustainability is something which we have lived since ancient times, and we value it as a quality, as a passion. And when we are dealing with Chaturang, the very first out of the four pillars, the first pillar is conflicts, the second pillar is competition, the third is cooperation, and fourth is creating or creation. I would stick to the last two and not the first two, because we know we have seen ample, or we all have ample exposure to the first two. Conflict I need not talk about, because I'm sure that's the primary thought which comes to anybody's mind when engaging in multilateral forums or on any platform. Everybody knows all kinds of conflicts which the world is suffering from. Some may be short-sighted, who may see only a part of the conflict in a particular region, but others have the knowledge wide enough to see the globe and see where all conflicts have existed, for how long, and for on a whole lot of subjects. And India's vision being few thousand BC till now, so we've seen conflicts, we've lived through the conflicts, we continue to live through the conflicts, and that doesn't mean India has been party to the conflicts. We have been problem solvers rather than problem creators. Even when we were the most powerful nation in economic terms in the globe, we still chose not to put down anyone. We chose partnerships, we chose cooperation, and that's India's learning from a long history as a nation. When I think of recent times and recent methodologies which are operating, I think Prime Minister's face comes to my imagination. And when PM said that this is not an era of war, I'm very clear what he was referring to. Of course, there's an immediate connection to the recent conflicts which are happening, but there is a deeper connection as well. And the deeper connection is looking at the multilateral fora, the bodies which were meant to resolve the conflicts, which were meant to prevent the conflicts in the first place. And if any, then in those cases, arbiter and deflect or resolve the conflicts, have somewhere failed to do so. And that failure is what we see today. And any discussion, all the discussions that we've been having since yesterday, have to be towards pragmatic approach to what's happening around. Can we be limited by the knowledge we have? Can we be limited by the geography that we are aware of? And can we be limited in the principle what we follow and pick and choose our subjects? And as long as we are limited, this resolution will not happen. The resolution requires vastness of understanding and vastness of purpose. And I think in those terms, the words again come resonating back that this is not an era of war. And if this is not an era of war, then what era is it? This is an era of cooperation. This is an era of creation. After huge losses, mankind has reached where mankind has. We've all struggled with poverty for a very long time. We still continue to suffer with poverty, climate change, energy crisis, food crisis, fertilizer crisis. And if we all need to deal with these crises, we need to find solutions which are necessary for peace building. And only in a peaceful, kinder, compassionate atmosphere can these solutions be found. And if we look at India's approach, and India's approach is when we are working with the countries, we are looking at the principle of benefit of all, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, which means everyone, let there be happiness, wealth, prosperity for everyone, not just for me. In fact, Gita, one of our ancient texts, it says if you are a wealthy person and you don't share your wealth, it's akin to being a thief. Does it resonate with some? Because ultimately, wealth building has elements of all kinds. The elements of wealth building will have resources, which may have come from other places. It will have human element and talent and skill, which may have come from other people. So while you progress, and we generate wealth, we need to have the heart to share it with the less fortunate ones. That's what all the religions in the world teach. That's what human value is all about. That's what kindness, compassion is all about. And that's what makes a human a human. That while we revel in wealth, we need to have the heart to share it without agenda. The more important part is without agenda. We've all seen how certain nations will have agenda. Agenda based on looking down upon others, giving in alms, but that's not what sharing is all about. Sharing is about equality, and equality of purpose and a sense of dignity for others. Respect and dignity needs to be protected. And why, and from where my thoughts erupt from, we've been there once. And we've been there once. We've seen it all. And because we've seen it all, we have experience of all kind. And that experience which teaches us humility, that experience which teaches us value in sharing, respecting others, and kindness being at the core of our interactions. Thus, today's topic, which was assigned to me, was about developmental cooperation. It is here I wish to stop and say that we've heard the word aid. But when you deal with India, we don't use the word aid. We do give grants, which are without any fetters, which do not have interest element. We do not create stadiums which do not have roads. So there is no hidden agenda. When we do things, this is out of sheer goodness, compassion and kindness, because we believe in sharing. And when we believe in sharing, this is also with a sense of respect and dignity to the people and the nations who may be less fortunate for the time being. Because we know fortunes can tilt and turn. We've seen too long a history. You're rich, you can be poor, and you can be very poor, and you can still become rich. We've seen it. And that cycle of life continues. So when you deal with India, we do not use the words grant and aid, we say developmental partnership. And in this process of development partnership, it just doesn't come as money on the table, with or without agenda, without modalities, but this comes with many other affirmative actions. The affirmative action could be in the form of capacity building, that you just don't create an airport and leave it, but you create an airport, but you also create a skill center. You also create a power center. You also train people. You also get skill training, roads, water, sustainability, energy consumption, all that along with it. So that's a whole ecosystem. So from capacity building to technical support, all this comes as a package. So on one side, this is about assets, it's about investments, it's about grant, aid. But when you call it and bring it under the head of developmental partnership, then partnerships are hand-holding. Partnerships are about capacity building. Partnerships are about seeing the human face behind the infra development. And when it comes to India, now imagine a country, I met somebody yesterday, I won't name the country, I won't name the person, but somebody said, oh, it's amazing to see India where it has come from a country which was seeking aid for food. And I looked at him and I said, well, quite a reminder. We were also the richest country in the world, and not way back, just about 100 plus years ago. And we were controlling 32% of the global GDP. Imagine. From there to a past where literacy rate fell down, agroeconomy had to get aid and grant in food to become a food surplus country today. And when we are a food surplus country, do we agglomerate everything for ourselves? Do we arm twist others into buying our goods? Answer is no. So while India has created the wealth of food security for itself, it doesn't mind sharing with others. I won't go into the details, but whenever there were issues and problems with several other countries, India has stood there from Mozambique to Seychelles to Ghana to many other countries, and most recent being Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we do not recognize the government, we do not have any diplomatic relationship with Taliban, but we see the hungry faces of those children and women. Through the World Food Programme of the UN, India is the country which has supplied 20,000 metric tons of wheat, and we continue to supply. This is the country you're dealing with. When we needed grant and aid, and people remember that they had to give grant and red wheat in my childhood, I remember those days. We got that as grant and aid, the wheat. But today, when we give the top quality rice and wheat to other countries, we do not call it grant. We call it developmental cooperation. That's where the difference lies. That's where the difference of thought process lies. And this difference of thought process can be seen even in our line of credit. Line of credit by a country which had its own struggles, which continues to be a centrist country when it comes to global north and global south. While we are a country of the global north today by virtue of being the 5th largest economy, but not way back, just 10 years ago, we were one amongst fragile 5. And we remember that. We don't forget. History has a lot to teach. So how we changed from being fragile 5 to top 5 is itself a study worth being undertaken, is itself a study of country's resilience and celebrating what India stands for. A lot of hard work, a lot of intelligence, and youth power. Youngest country in the world with 65% of people being youth. And this 65% has decided to make this country, as per our Prime Minister, a developed country by 2047. And this developed country has showcased to the world that within a span of 10 years, we could deepen the roots of democracy, make systems transparent, do away with corruption, take the distribution system to people who need it the most, and secure close to 48% of global digital transactions in this country. That is to be celebrated. This is the India you're dealing with. And this India, which has learned its lesson through hard work, our own struggles, is willing to share with everyone. And that sharing you can find in terms of capacity building. Capacity building which comes for free. Nothing entrenched within. There is no data stealing. It's all about sharing. And I'll give you the example. The example comes from the time which we all suffered during COVID-19. So when we were undergoing COVID-19, the world was undergoing COVID-19, India built its own vaccines, gave it to close to 160 odd countries, and we built a platform called CoWIN. I know how so many countries were wanting to sell this platform. But India, when made its platform, kept it an open source platform, offered it to anyone who ever wanted to use it anywhere in the world. Simply because we had to deal with 120 odd crore people, 1.2 billion people, whose vaccination charts had to be kept and certificates needed to be issued. But several other countries who could not pay for their own platform, but needed it the most, so we opened it for them, that they could use it without having to give any support or give any remuneration for that. And that goes to show what India is all about. That when we work towards, when we have gained expertise in any field, when we have improved on our own governance model and structures, it's open for all and we are willing to share. In technical field, this was technical support, so you can change it to any other format. Asian satellite network which we built, e-network which exists amongst 53 odd African countries where we are working on this particular network, multi-specialty hospitals within Africa, 15 of them within the country, in India, telemedicine, teleeducation, e-learning, Seychelles been given that. So this technical support has been shared with all. No encumbrances. Share. If you've learned, give it to others. And I was just going to say that in the past, when there were no IPR regimes, India shared its knowledge, whether it was Ayurveda or it was numeric system. I have a friend sitting amongst the audience who grew up in the Middle East. And I have to say this about the Arabs. So when Arabs got the numbers, the decimal system from India and the numerals from India, they called it Hindavi. So they gave the credit to India and they called it Hindavi. It's a different matter that when these numeral system went to Europe and rest of the world, they called it Arabic numerals. So that's where I was coming to, limited by our knowledge. What we know superficially is what we know without getting into the depth that what actually transpired in the history and from where it came from. So technical support, line of credit. In terms of line of credit, whether it's buyer's credit, opening of the markets, or market assistance in any form, or any other support or financial support that is needed, is all provided for when we deal with technical and infrastructure development. I must share Maldives, for example. We built roads for them. Circular road was done by India. Ghana, we did project on their one of their sugar industry, which was, and we supported them, that this could be made available for the local market, for export market, along with 30 megawatt of the electricity and power generation plant. Similarly, railway network, metros, we've helped wherever we could, and without, again, no hidden agenda, no hidden meanings. What you get is on the table, and what you receive is what you ask for. And again, when I forgot to draw that line, that when Prime Minister was speaking to the Ugandan Parliament in 2018, he made a statement, and I think that particular statement actually encapsulates our foreign policy initiative in terms of developmental cooperation. He said, "We will do as you need, as demanded by you, as it is required by you, and in that requirement, we will work with you for your benefit, and everybody gets to benefit out of that particular developmental process. We will build and create local skills, and we will work on the local opportunities for all." That's the kind of work which encapsulates India's foreign policy when it comes to developmental cooperation. We've used it as a tool to reach out to our friends, and you'll be happy to learn that a nation which was struggling with food, which had its own energy issues, which had huge population to deal with, which had health as one of the parameters to deal with, all those things were dealt with, and all those capacity building that we were generating for ourselves, we were sharing simultaneously with others. It was open for all, and close to $107 billion is what India has assisted others with, without ever speaking about it. Education, health, and normally I say from information technology to infrastructure, from science and technology to sports, from preservation and conservation of various temples and heritage buildings. And I must stop here because I feel people know that when it comes to culture and heritage and preserving and conserving other buildings, India has done it for itself, but we've also done it for others. Lao PDR, we did project. We did project Angkor Wat in Cambodia. We've done projects of Son Temple complex in Vietnam. We've done several temples and Buddhist places in Myanmar. We've done a mosque in Maldives, Middle East. So wherever is the question of preservation and conservation comes, India has assisted both technically, supported financially, and also in terms of developing manpower and capacity building. Along with one project, we do all that also, so that there is a continuation of what we have done. So while we hand it over to others, the process can continue, and there are long-term benefits to the people of that particular region. Even in Uzbekistan, we did one project. So repeatedly, these conservation activities also go on. In terms of international collaborations, if you can just broadly have a look, you'll realize that Indian initiatives, which have been primarily the past 10 years, the decade has been led by the direct intervention of the Prime Minister and has been led from the front. And we can see the steps, we can see the footmarks. And those footmarks are actually twofold. One, that India believes in its spiritual heritage, and you will see those pug marks everywhere. Two, India believes in human values. So you will see those values of compassion, kindness, standing for the right perspective everywhere. And when we combine these two, you will see the face behind that happens to be the Honorable Prime Minister who's leading from the front. And when he's leading, he's repeatedly making these statements. And over a period of time, when you analyze, you'll realize that if Turkey got earthquake, NDRF team from India was the first one to enter and last one to leave. When Nepal had earthquake, we were the first responders to inform and to assist. When there was a crisis situation in Bangladesh, we were the first ones to be there to help and exit. So whether it's NDRF, it's Army Medical Corps, it's food assistance, it's healthcare, vaccination, generic drugs, building hospitals in 53 countries, then linking them through internet. I mean, these are some groundbreaking realities. And that doesn't take away the fact that individually we would have helped so many others in so many different ways, in capacity building of teachers, e-learning programs, computer training programs, infrastructure development, grant in aid, if I may use the word, but I hate using this word, but supporting people where we can in whichever way. The only purpose has been that what we have gained in terms of knowledge, our shared heritage, our own experience. Every interaction teaches us, sometimes teaches us to replicate certain projects and replicate conduct and behavior of certain people because they impressed us, they were so good. And sometimes what not to do when dealing with countries. So something which hurts you, something which puts light in a wrong place, you know, this is not the way to deal with others. And thereby, India's developmental cooperation is caring in nature, dealing with others with respect. Respect, tenderness, care are the core principles based on which we deal with other nations and carry on with our purpose of diplomacy and well-being of the world. And when we are dealing with Chaturang, I deal with the two, that to create out of conflict, to survive out of competition, you need to work at cooperation and thus make the world a better place to live for everyone and learn to face up to what we have to face up in utmost truthful manner, and then only we'll be able to resolve the conflicts and deal with the way world is. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Minister Lekhi, for that inspiring address.